whether patients who are already showing mild cognitive impairment will progress to Alzheimer's disease with over 80% accuracy.
One of Andy's amazing breakdowns on what Q is, the things that we're looking for, looks to me like really doing Google Slides, except now you get to do it in video.
As a creator, I kind of assume all my data is going to be trained anyway.
Connected to that there was a little bit of a data kerfuffle.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is July 17th, 2024, and this is the Daily AI Show Live, and thanks for joining us today. With us today, we have Jyunmi and Beth. I'm Brian. We'll see if anybody else pops in the door as well. And because it's Wednesday, that means we're going to cover the news. And if this is the first time you're hanging out with us, what we do is basically every Wednesday, we take a break and we look back at the news that's happened over the last 7 days. So not a consecutive Monday to Friday week, but basically a Wednesday to Wednesday. We try to keep it in that range and talk about all the things all the news stories that are coming out. We do not share those ideas and news stories with each other before the show. So more times than not, we might have the same news story, but we don't know what the other person is going to say, which is what makes it super fun, because more times than not, I'm learning right along with the audience and everybody else on some of these really, really cool stories. So that's what we have for today. With that, I always like to throw it to, I don't know, Jyunmi or Beth. Let's Jyunmi. I feel like we need to throw it to Jyunmi. That's a little inside joke after yesterday, but I mean, let's start with Jyunmi. Jyunmi, what do you got in terms of the news stories this week?
All right. Well, the big story that I was really excited about is that Karpathy is introducing Eureka Labs.
Yeah,
right?
All that.
AI and education. This is also it's a big general topic that we highlight all the time. But essentially, his group got together, and this is their new project. This is the new thing that they're building. So Eureka Labs is going to be the best, how they say, is the best learning experience by incorporating generative AI. So they want to use AI assistants and all of those different options, create a platform so that it's like your teacher and your AI are in symbiosis. And the example that they use is imagine if you were studying super high quality materials with like Feynman, and you're talking about science and things like that, philosophy and all those kinds of things. And so the first course they're releasing is LLM 101N. So it's supposed to be an undergraduate level course that guides the student through training their own AI. So very similar to a smaller version of the AI teaching assistant itself. So all of the materials will be available online. You can run, they also plan to run both digital and physical cohorts of people going through it together. So I'm not exactly sure what, they haven't really announced anything in terms of how their model is set up if it's going to be like Khan Academy. This is AI in education's not new idea. They know,
right.
There's going to be a convergence. We also know that students are the number one power users of AI, simply by doing some, I know correlation doesn't equal causation, but at the end of June every year, the usage of ChatGPT goes way down.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
shocking.
Well, who doesn't need to use it anymore? Oh, okay. Right. So there's obviously a big need there. And we've talked about in the past how important AI literacy is and AI education is, especially with studies coming out saying that only 7% of people use AI in the United States on a daily basis. That is a minuscule number, and that's representative of a large number of awareness, how many people are actually aware of AI use, how it can be used, and how it will affect their lives. So I think this is a great move forward. Lots of really smart people behind it, and they've raised money and things like that. It is interesting that they have released that first course on GitHub, so you can take a look at it. They, of course, preface saying, this is a work in progress, and please don't send us bug reports because it's not ready for release. Just the info's here. Go for it. That kind of thing. So
I think
it'll be nice.
I think what's really cool about this, Jyunmi, that, you got somebody like Andrej Karpathy, who's, former Tesla, former OpenAI, from Stanford, obviously intelligent person. And the first thing that I got wasn't even like, I got excited because I love that more people dipping into education. And it seems to be a bit of a passion project based on his sort of X post that he put out about that, saying that this is something he's been passionate about for a while, which is also great. We've talked about that too, like go towards your passion, right? Then it doesn't feel like a job. But what I really love is that maybe he talked about it. I don't know what his conversations were, but he wasn't like, oh, there's already a Khan Academy and there's Conmigo and they're already doing stuff. Or he didn't look this way or he didn't look that way. He saw a wide open space in front of him and said, this is something I'm passionate about. And that doesn't mean it's going to be the end all be all, but this is how, maybe we're going to approach AI and education together. What you mentioned about there being in-person cohorts as well as digital, it's probably the thing that got me the most excited. Because I love this idea that we're AI and education together does not suggest that people stop being in the same room together. Clearly, there's going to be many ways through metaverse and goggles, and we can imagine all the ways that education can be different and be in a virtual space that still feels like you're next to, people in your class. But there really is nothing as similar as standing next to the water cooler, as standing outside the classroom. I at least can think back to my college years and remember really, really meaningful conversations that would happen waiting for a classroom door to open in a hallway somewhere. And that's hard to replicate. So I don't know what he's going to do, but what I'm hoping it would be, because this would be my wish if I was building it, would be that, again, you're learning. It's what Ethan Malik said in the back of his book, Co-Intelligence. You're doing the education part of it, like the learning part of it through the AI, because to your point, you're going to have the best tutor in your language teaching you the way you want, right? That's the promise of AI, is that it could be completely geared towards me. But then maybe we're going into a cohort or a live space where there's practical application happening, where there's scenarios happening, whatever the case may be, or re-emphasis of what was already learned. Because to me, that seems to be like the cool intersection of all of this, which is, I don't know, I no longer necessarily, in the future, I may not necessarily need a teacher to find the right way to teach me. I could probably get an AI that can get tweaked and get there for me to make me understand the information as best I can. And Beth is going to be slightly different, and Karl's here, by the way. Karl might learn a slightly different way, but then we can all come together and we can reinforce that learning. That may not be what they're doing. Maybe they're going to be doing something else, but that's where my head went with this. And like I said, the first part about it just being there's wide open space. If you want to go into AI and education, I hope nobody is looking at this and going, shoot, that's kind of where I was going to go. It's kind of like there's room for everybody.
Yeah, I like that you highlighted the point about having both the digital and physical cohorts, because humans are social creatures and we do form stronger connections and are able to teach each other collectively, and we learn collectively very well. And this usually is, it can be expressed in filling in the little gaps. If someone understood a concept slightly differently and brings that to the group, and vice versa, and they're like, oh, okay, all those light bulb moments happen and things like that. So I agree, having the AI be able to morph or change into how you learn the best, and then you bringing your best to the group so that everyone can share and be and experience all of those best pieces to the puzzle and put those together. You're gonna end up with a great image in the end. So I think for the AI education part, like you said, there's always room. There's not going to be, oh, now we have AI teachers. Nobody needs to be together and learn together anymore.
Right. Yeah. And, the analogy that I would think of here, Beth, is, you talk a lot about doing improv classes, and you could read 100 of the best books on improv in the world, but if you never stepped on a stage, if you never went to a late night practice or something like that, I would imagine you probably have just a very little chance of being successful at improv. You literally need other humans to be interacting with and stuff. And so there's obviously a great need for this. I've never felt that classrooms were going away, or that everybody would be remote in education, that somehow, if I had a kid and they were going to elementary school, they wouldn't be in a classroom. I obviously don't believe that. But I do get excited about this idea of, maybe what Andrew is saying, maybe he's going to do, maybe not. Maybe we'll find out, Eureka Labs is something different. I am curious about the name, because I do feel like that's a very common name, Eureka, and it's already being used in the education space. So I was curious to see that name. Number one, I would think it would be, maybe it isn't, but maybe hard to secure URLs and things like that, but maybe not.
It's just going to come down to the strength of their branding and marketing. Whoever can throw more money at it and how much of an impact they make, that's really going to determine if they take over the name or not.
I mean, it's a great name, but it's just very common,
Yeah.
And I don't know. The guy who used to work for Tesla and OpenAI might have some resources to throw out a name, right?
Yeah. And the other Eureka, I would honestly, is it books? I would have to I couldn't even tell you what the other company is. I can see the logo. So, I mean, obviously it's not like it's not Kleenex or something, you know what I mean? It's not like a name drop, like, oh yeah, everybody knows what that is type of thing. So, anyway, that's really cool. Go ahead, Beth.
So I have a story from Cambridge University. They just developed a new AI tool that can predict whether patients are showing whether patients who are already showing mild cognitive impairment will progress to Alzheimer's disease with over 80% accuracy. And it puts them in 3 categories, like likely to remain stable, likely to have slow decline over time, or likely for that rapid dementia decline that is so heartbreaking. But I suspect all of us have had some sort of brush with someone who's had that experience. And it analyzes data from both cognitive assessments and MRI scans, but it doesn't need PET scans or spinal taps, which are much more expensive and much more invasive, right? So if you can just sit in an MRI and do the cognitive assessment and get that feedback, that's much more likely for people to engage with, rather than, sure, I'll sign up for the spinal tap, right? That just leads to a whole lot more of resistance. And it identified 82% of cases that would progress to Alzheimer's and 81% of cases that would remain stable. So it's significantly reducing misdiagnosis rates. And of course, I mean, this is like all screening for bad news, right? The less accurate it is, the more you're likely to avoid it, right? Because that just goes into your head like, I don't need bad news that's wrong. So this kind of accuracy is actually really great. And like this feels like recognizing the breast cancer gene and those kinds of things, like, oh, okay. Like, great. Maybe you want to get this information if you're in a situation where it's looking like you have a question about it.
And Beth, I know, if I remember right, you have personal experiences with this, and I mine weren't as close as yours, but certainly within the family and seen it. I am not up on what the current medications or cocktails of medications there might be for Alzheimer's, but what I would say is, like, something like this with a high accuracy rate and early detection, that's got to be such a big advantage. I mean, maybe there's not as much we're not at a point where we can cure or do things, but if it helps a family understand early on where it's going, where the path is going, there's a lot that can be done, especially for the person who's going through it, because you can imagine they may adjust the next several years of their life if they think they may still have several years of good cognitive ability. You may adjust how you live those years, whereas maybe in the past, it was slow, it was silent, and you didn't catch it before it was truly actually a grounding type incident where you're not going to maybe travel as much and stuff like that. So anyway, it's very exciting to hear that. I read the same story, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. And yes, both my parents, my mother had a very slow 6-year dementia journey, and I was her primary caretaker. And had we had this access, we would have known that what we were seeing several years earlier was something to pay attention to and plan for. And when the stuff hit the fan, the cooling device, that was over a weekend. It was like, oh, okay, no, this really needs to happen, and let's all gather and move. So this would be really helpful.
Great point. That like not only is it helpful to the patient, but the surrounding support system, in your case, the primary caregiver, how helpful this would have been for you and how you had to adjust, your next couple of years to help your mom and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really, really, really powerful stuff. I saw another news. I wasn't even going to bring this up, but you reminded me of it. In the era of medical, I don't remember where I read it, to be honest with you, but it was about dental records, and that they were able to predict the sex of the dental remains with high accuracy. Just another one is really amazing. Like, oh, that's got to put that in the category of like, I didn't know AI could do that. But I guess if it gets a full upper or lower jaw X-ray, I might be wrong about that. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately. But the gist of it was that they could identify the sex of the person. And as a firefighter, we can all know there's many, many times where that is all you get. And so that's all you have in traumatic situations, as well as other reasons, that might be all you get. And so obviously having a tool like that you can, just another tool, another AI tool to help you, people do stuff, or maybe bring closure to families, identify victims, these kind of things. Obviously very, very huge. So we're just cool to see that. And, it's 80% today, it'll be 90% tomorrow, and it'll be 99% in 5 years. Like we know these things are just going to get more and more accurate with the larger the data sets go. I think the dental records was something like, maybe I'm conflicting the two stories. Tell me if I'm wrong, Beth, but it was like, it was like 200. I think the dental one was like 200,000 records or something like that. It was a large data set, but you can imagine if it's got success, how much easier it'll be to bring in other people who will sign up and say, sure, you can use my dental records and I'm alive, but sure, you could I would say yes to it. Like, yeah, right. see if you can predict that I'm a guy, from my dental records. I have no problem with that. In the age of AI, why not? So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes me think future show topic, and then we'll see what Karl brought for news show and tell. I'm seeing a couple different things where people could sign up and say yes, right? Like, I'm willing to share my biological, medical, do a cognitive assessment, or those sorts of things. And we should look at putting together a list of those for people if there's something if you want to contribute, if you would like to allow people to train on your data, which is you.
Yeah. There's some really cool companies out there. They don't do this specifically, but TrialBee, if people ever want to look at their one, they help get clinical trials up and going.
Nice.
They have a very cool CEO that I've gotten to know over the years and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm just a fan of the company, but I can imagine TrialBee or companies like that essentially having a one-stop shop for people who can do these types of things. Like, who knows? Maybe there will be a biotech type of AI company that says MRI, and we will throw the latest AI that we have at you. And, look, you're going to have to come into it knowing that the numbers may not exactly be at 100%. But if you're curious, if you want to give towards the science of this, you can. So that'd be really cool. I know I would be into it, for sure, to like try to advance something in my little way and be a part of some future. That'd be super cool to do. Karl, I know you joined us a little while ago, but what do you have in terms of, or do you have any who said it? Show and tell. I think that's a good name for the show. Or show and tell. Any news stories that from this week?
I think it came out late last week, so I don't think we got it on the Wednesday. But I want to talk about the fruit, the strawberry fruit. I don't think we didn't talk about that Wednesday, right? No.
Oh, OpenAI strawberry. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Did we talk about the 5 levels? OpenAI has 5 levels. We didn't talk about that either. Okay.
No, but we should on both.
But we are doing a whole show about 5 levels next week.
Oh, the 5 levels? Okay.
So do a brush.
Strawberry too. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about both of them next week. But yeah, let's talk about them a little bit.
I just want to talk about, in terms of strawberry, I think it was a while back for some of our listeners, we talked about Q. I don't know how many months ago. I think that was last year we talked about Q.
It was.
We had a good breakdown. I think one of Andy's amazing breakdowns on what Q is, what, the things that we're looking for. So, and I think this is part of the stuff that's coming out of OpenAI, whether it's leaked or intentional leaks or whatever that is. So just to describe it from routers, the document describes a project that uses strawberry models with the aim of enabling the company's AI to not just generate answers to queries, but to plan ahead enough to navigate the internet autonomously and reliably to perform what OpenAI termed deep research according to the source. And, obviously you don't know when that's coming out. People said, I think in the same story, it's formerly known as Q. I remember there was an interview with Sam Altman when I think it was Lex Friedman who asked him, hey, tell me about Q. And there's the fastest answers, we're not going to be talking about that. I was like, okay, so they are. And I think it's a different source of briefs on the matter said OpenAI has tested internally that scored 90% on a math data set, benchmark of championship math problems. Routers could not determine if that was the Strawberry project. So I think it all wrapped together. There's, those 5 levels that you're talking about, going into the reasoner level, the human capable reasoning, which is at the PhD level.
Level 2, correct?
Yeah,
reasoning was level 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So really quick, level 1 is where we are now. Chatbots. Level 2 is human reasoner. Level 3, I believe, is I'm missing out. I know 4 is the being an innovator. I know 5 is organizations. 3 is agents. So that's starting to get into those 5 levels. So what I thought was really neat about this story is that it's starting to think about the pieces, the agentic pieces that we're starting to see, right? So if you go into, if it's starting to do deep research and you ask it to do, hey, I want you to find this for me, it'll actually do deep research. So an example would be, hey, I'm looking for a new mountain bike. I'm looking for, 2022 models, 29 inches, trail bike. Here's all the criteria I need to find. Can you give me a price near this location, this specific bike? Go find it. Because I still have to look at multiple either buy and sell sites, bike shop sites, but imagine it comes with me of my criteria all put together. Now, mind you, Perplexity kind of does something like that. So I'm very curious what deep research actually means.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we'll get into it next week. I think we'll, Jyunmi, I don't know if you're able to quickly, you're usually Johnny on the spot with this, Jyunmi on the spot with this, which is usually know the episode. Do you know what episode our Q-Star was from last year? Because I think that'd be, if people want to get a primer, we did go deep into Q-Star, and we will definitely come back to that when we start talking about Strawberry on a show next week. Because
I will say I can't be Johnny on the spot on this one because that's how long ago it was. We are talking sub 100s. So
sub 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find it. But before the end of the show, we'll find it. I'll find it.
We will put a link in our newsletter this weekend. So if you would like to know, or if you're already subscribed, go ahead and open that newsletter. So we'll let you know the link of the show when we talk about Q-Star.
What we should do is we should just ask Perplexity. Perplexity has been doing a good job, by the way, of pulling in our YouTube shows. So I'm curious if Perplexity will pull that back for us and give us the link. They might. We've been showing up a lot in Perplexity, which I don't know if there is some inside baseball on that or not, because we use it or whatever. But it's super cool to see when I'm researching a show and it brings up the show that I'm researching for. That happens all the time. I'm like, no, show 85, Cisco with the win.
Cisco on the spot.
Yeah, 85. So it was quite a while ago. Is not 200, but about 150 shows ago. That's how long this has been going on. So we will come back to that. We won't, go too deep into it today, but definitely go back and look at that show because we went deep into Q-Star. And then they're saying that Strawberry is Q-Star, like it that is formally known or was internally known or maybe something. There's also some Stanford research from back in the day that had to do with post training where the reasoning comes in. It's post training. It's what we've been talking about a lot, what Andy has talked about a lot, which is this idea of multiple language models working together. We already see this, and Karl just pointed out that this is also a stepping stone towards agents. So when you get back to the 5 levels, the first one of maybe Bloomberg or whatever I read about the 5 levels, straight up they're like, OpenAI did this because, by the way, remember Sam Altman just a little while ago was like, I give it up and trying to give you a definition of AGI. A couple months later, OpenAI is like, here are the 5 levels. Here's because they need investors, right? And so it's easier if you have a roadmap that's like DEFCON 1 and DEFCON 5 to say like, here's where we are. Here's the roadmap. And I don't know how long it'll take us, but here's the roadmap. And so if you're investing with us, you can expect this, then this, then this, right? Totally makes sense to me. Smart move by the company. It also helps everybody else too to go, okay, we can sort of visualize that, but it helps with this idea of these stepping stones, as Karl pointed out, that we're definitely beyond one really smart language model to solve a problem. We're quickly moving into multiple language models. And truth be told, we don't even really know what's going on in the back end of a ChatGPT. We like to think of it as like it's GPT 4.0, and the reality is it's probably a little mix of 3.5, 4, 4.0, as they're making these models more efficient and faster and figure out which one to pick at the time to give you the best answers, because not everything needs the top model, as we talked about. It's cheaper that way. So this is just a stepping stone in that direction. So we'll definitely talk about that. I don't know, Beth, are we going to do it as 2 separate shows you think next week, or are we going to just do it as one, the levels and Strawberry?
We were thinking levels and then doing Strawberry a little later because it seems like more is coming out about Strawberry, but we can, they will definitely happen in the next 2 weeks. So let us know. Karl, I just want to ask a quick follow-up. What doesn't seem to be talked about in this is the reasoning level, right? So level 2 reasoning, is that what you often talk about, the higher level?
Yes. Well, I think we'll all talk about system 1, system 2 thinking, right? System 1 thinking, 2 plus 2, everybody automatically is, okay, 2, it's 4, right? 2 plus 2, 4. Like, it just goes from the head. But if we talk about, okay, what is 7,632 times that by 42 divided by another number? You actually have to think about it, which is now system 2 thinking. You can't just, it's not rapid. Not for most people. For some people it's fast, but you still have to think through. So, and remember, Andrej Karpathy, in one of his intros to large language models itself, said, hey, system 2 thinking is currently, with all the models, that's not inherent. Even though you put in think through this step by step into your prompt, it's still not the same. So I'm curious to see if Strawberry and those next models are actually taking into account system 2 thinking, where it's unpacking higher level reasoning. So if you say higher level reasoning to the level of a PhD post-grad, that to me implies system 2 thinking, which there's some people that argue if you reach that level, then agents and helping with innovation should fall right into place. There shouldn't be a level 3 and 4. There should just be level 2, because 3 and 4 should be, if you have higher level reasoning, wouldn't you assume that then it could do everything that you want it to do in levels 2, 3 and 4? So some And debate back and forth on that too.
And that there is a preview of Tuesday's show. So,
yeah, as always, come back. Well, listen, we'll know more about it by Tuesday, and then we'll talk through it on Tuesday with you and stuff like that. It's the fun of doing this show is that we are constantly learning. I think Andy said it best when we first started this show. This is just for the audience to hear this little background, Slack talk and stuff. But we were having conversations about the show already a year ago. So August 7th is our 1-year anniversary. We'll have a 1-year anniversary show. But this time last year, we were all 7 of us having conversations about it. This is after, I've talked about this before, it was after our Slack post that I put out in the AI Exchange. I think Jyunmi and I were on a call within 30 minutes of me posting that and talking about what this could be and stuff. So we were already talking about this a year ago. And, Andy's take on it, which I think is sort of like the take of the show really was, hey, I'm in retirement. I don't think I'm going to take on another, quote unquote job or role at a company. He was past that part of his life. And he's like, for me, it's just a way to show up and talk to people and learn and have a good conversation and keep up with this. It's a way to keep us all honest and keep up on all the latest news and all those stuff. So we're right there with you. This is the fun part of the show is that for everybody listening to this, you're just coming along for the ride with us. That was the idea of it. I always saw this more as a talk show on the old school radio than maybe some interview series or, we do those too. But I want to bring up a quick a news story that I saw that I'm not quite sure actually where the AI is in it, but I do think it's cool. And that's that Google announced they have this new AI video, let's call it an editor. I went around, it's in labs, and I went around and poked around with it a little bit. It is cool. It is really cool. In fact, it looks to me like really doing Google Slides, except now you get to do it in video. And you could break it up and you sort of have your timeline, but there were all these individual pieces. And you could change text really quick. You could throw a video in there. I have not created anything with it, so I can't speak too much on it. Maybe it's something we'll do a show review for. Not quite sure where the AI is, because to me, when I went in there, you were just swapping out text and video, but maybe there's more AI behind it. They're certainly touted it as a AI video editor, I guess. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, or maybe I missed something on it, whatever. Very cool. I'm just not sure where the AI is.
Is that VO?
No. This is just Google. I will find you the name of it. It is. Thank you.
VIDS.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Announcing Google Vids into Workspace Labs. I'm just reading the announcement here. Is an AI-powered video creation app that is designed for work deeply integrated with the Workspace suite you use every day. Build your narrative and high-quality templates or use Gemini in Vids to help you get first draft faster. Okay, so that might be the angle they're using, is that like many other of the Google Workspaces, you can tap Gemini now in your email. You can tap Gemini now to help you write slides. It's not like do it for you. We know that we've talked about that before, but that would be the AI thing, is they're saying, hey, Gemini is available as part of this to help you write the script stuff. Anyway, very cool product. I highly recommend checking it out. It's not going to replace Adobe. It didn't appear to be that. It really did to me look like, if you like Google Slides, and I actually build in Google Slides all the time because it's what my work uses, I could definitely see creating very quick how-to videos internally for my team, because I'm always like, hey, really quick, this is how you do this thing for AI, whatever. And we sort of share with Vidyard, which is great. But I do see, if this was fast, I do see a place for this inside the modern workspace to make really quick, nice videos that you could pop out and send out to other people. And yeah, sure, if you're using Gemini to help you get it done even faster, then I guess technically you are using AI to get it done. So just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was cool, and I think people should go check it out for sure.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. I was going to say,
I got 2 really quick ones. Claude has an Android app now. Yay! Green bubbles. Okay. So Claude Android app. So now all of us Android users can use Claude. And then the other one was YouTube Music wants to create an AI generated radio feature or radio station. That might be kind of cool. I know there was a big influx or trend to have these live lo-fi channels going on in the background while you're doing your work and stuff like that. So this might be an alternate to that. I don't know if it'll be any good, but we'll see. Connected to that there was a little bit of a data kerfuffle around YouTube data and transcripts and things like that of various like 170,000 different videos that were used by other big tech companies or acquired by other big tech companies through third-party mediaries.
Apple, Anthropic, Nvidia, and Salesforce, all proven through Proof News to have trained their stuff on data from 170,000 YouTube videos without creators' consent.
Yeah. So apparently the key cover their butts situation here is they would buy this data unbeknownst to them that had been packaged and sold by these third-party web scrapers, essentially. And so these data companies say, oh, we have all this data information. It's like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll just buy it from you. So there's a couple of points of failure there and, doing your vetting and things like that. So we'll see what comes out of that. But yeah, that's just another what seems to be the norm in big data and big tech companies regarding data is just they're going to acquire whatever they're going to acquire as quickly as possible.
Okay, but like wouldn't most of us who are iPhone users and have our experience with Siri, like kind of, could you please just take one for the team if it can make Siri smart, right? Like, isn't that the desperate plea of all iPhone users, or is that just me?
Well, I'm sure that's going to happen. It's just a matter of, can you hold on just a little bit longer? It's almost there. We've almost got it set up.
What were you going to say, Karl?
Oh, when we talk about trained data, as a creator, I kind of assume all my data is going to be trained anyway. Like, I know there's like, well, this is I was like, well, you kind of put it out to the world. It's being, the transcription's already going to be taken. I feel that's going to be taken anyway. So, because, I haven't even read the terms of service on YouTube. So I'm assuming when I put it up on YouTube, when it takes the captions, YouTube and Google has access and will use that data. So it's not going to be another step. It's like, oh, Apple, Nvidia, Anthropic use thousands of sub YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, it might just be a good highlight of what people's assumptions are in their, for their creations and the public nature of the internet and the general practices of these large companies. Nobody reads a EULA anyways, but it, and that assumption where people are, it's like, oh yeah, of course, it's all theirs anyways. Most EULAs are, we do whatever we want and you can't do anything about it. It's what it kind of boils down to. Right.
I'm wondering though, and maybe this is just my point of view, if it's somebody taking outrage on my behalf or on somebody's behalf, because I'm reading this right now, right? It's like, no one came to me and said, we would like to use this. I was like, so you're telling me that Google's not using your transcriptions of your video? And
I think that's the whole point, is people have a skewed view of what they do on the internet and how private or sensitive.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. I think people are just like, oh, hey, I made this thing, it's mine. It's like, no, you put it on the internet, it's not really yours. You use their platform, it's mostly theirs.
It's mostly theirs.
And those kinds of things. Now, whether it should be that way or not, that's a larger conversation. But
sure.
I think there is a big split of people understanding what the realities are versus what it should be.
Yeah.
Well, what was the Microsoft, he wasn't the CEO, was CTO? Who was the Microsoft guy? He was like, basically, if you throw it on the internet, the general understanding is you don't own it, everybody owns it, we own it, Microsoft owns it. Like, he kind of got in some hot water for saying that or whatever. But I want to throw a throwback really quick to you, Karl, because you're the one that talked about this on a not like yesterday, but a previous show, where you were talking about the sort of a hypothetical of CXO. We don't even a CEO, CXO of a company, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make some avatars for you. It's faster, it's more efficient." Now, whether that CXO thought about it or not, they become a content creator, right? Maybe their team is doing it on their behalf.
Yep.
Okay, the CXO moves on. The company is bought out 2 times over, let's say 10 years. Totally possible, right? And now, all of a sudden, the CXO sees their face pop up on YouTube, and he's like, or she's like, "Wait, hold on. Like, that's me, but I didn't say that." And they're like, "Well, here's the thing. You were with the company when you did say that, and we did make the avatar, and it doesn't necessarily belong to you. It belongs to us, and our company was bought out twice, and who really knows?" And it's one of these shrug your shoulders things. Meanwhile, there's somebody out there going like, "Yes, but you're you're training on stuff that I didn't even say live. It was an avatar or otherwise." And I think this is going to happen a lot. Like, then here's maybe a show idea. Yeah. What happens when everybody becomes a content creator, whether they want to be or not?
That's a pretty good show.
Yeah, because that'll dive into what is data rights and digital rights and all those. Yes, let's definitely do a show on that, because we can definitely deep dive on the walls that we are going to come up against and the probably really messy experiences when it happens, especially in a very public forum.
Yeah. The thumbnail is just going to be somebody shrugging, because that's all I didn't really like. I don't know. Yeah. It seems legal to me. It would seem legal when we did it, you know, like we didn't realize you would have a problem with this 7 years later. And, you know, at the time the CXO is thinking, you know, to herself or whatever, like, well, it's a time saver today. And it is. They're like, look at all the cool things we could do with AI. You were going to be able to talk in 7 different languages. We have this multinational company. You're going to be able to do this. We're going to do all the training for you. You won't have to sit in front of a camera. And that CXO, of course, is going to be like, do it. Except what happens, you know, down the road. I think there's going to be a lot of that. And Karl, you're the one that brought this up. You're the one that put the nugget in my head, which was like, who owns that? Is it the person? Is it the company? Who has the rights? Who owns the rights to their voice and these things, when it was done in company time, the whole thing. So yeah, I think that'd be a super cool, because it'll start with the CXOs, but it's going to hit everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Because I can tell you right now, when the average person signs up with a job, part of the paperwork is any work that you do for the company is the company's. Yeah.
Listen, I use my buddy who works for Pixar. I've mentioned him before. I don't know that it's exactly this way, so this is not a quotable thing, but I do remember him talking about, like, as you would imagine, if he is doodling and he, you know, my buddy Dave is very, very creative. And so he could draw, you know, and he would make up new characters and stuff like that. That's Pixar's by the contract, whether he's sitting in the Pixar office or not. At least that's the way I remember it. Now, things could have changed. This could have been 20 years ago. Maybe I'm mixing the company. But that was the gist of it, was you work for this company, and if you have creative ideas, they belong to the company, not you, because you did it while you were working for the company. So whether that will stand in the age of AI or not, I don't know. That'd be interesting now. Last call for let's do a quick call. Last call. Any last news stories that you feel like we didn't hit that we want to hit, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, I got one, and I don't want it to blow up into a huge conversation, but I think it needs one. A company called Exa raises $17 million from Lightspeed, NVIDIA, Y Combinator to build the Google for AIs. So apparently the tool that they're building is while we have lots of search for humans, this is search for AIs. So when the AIs are looking for, instead of predicting what the next word would be, this search engine predicts what the next link will be. So it's all based off of data that people have shared links or backlinking and all these other kinds of things. And so it would help AIs look for where the next best source of information is, or the best next site for information, the best next link for information. So we have talked about how is web search and how are websites going to change in the future. And what would need to be done to make it more AI first or AI centric, because you're going to be sending out your agents and things like that. So their approach is they're going to look, their model looks for the next probable link or the next 10 probable links from what that search is. So it should improve AI search, and this is going to be a great background thing, but it could, there's a possibility here, I think, where it'll drastically change how we're going to interact with the internet. Like, this could be the module or mechanic or technology that goes, okay, AI for search for everybody. No one's going to use standard human search anymore because my agent will just do it faster, finding all the relevant links and all the best links to support whatever, phase or stage that it's trying to do.
I'm here for it.
Is that another show? Because if you think about the big ramifications of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know we've touched upon it in bits and pieces, but that might be an entire show in and of itself.
Well, hey, let's do it. It sounds like a great topic to me. We'll wrap this one up for today. Don't forget, you can go to thedailyaishow.com, learn all about all our past episodes, or just ask Cisco, apparently, and he will, or Cisco. I don't know. I apologize because I only know by the name. So I apologize for that. I don't have your dental records. I can't figure it out. But anyway, Cisco, we could just ask in the comments for any previous show. But if you don't have Cisco to ask, then you can go to thedailyaishow.com and see all our past episodes. You can sign up for our newsletter, which I've mentioned before. You could also figure out how we personally can help you. As you can see, we all do different things in different companies. So, when it comes to the sales stuff, I know I'm for the better deep research, because that will certainly help with lead generation, things like that I'm always building for and trying to solve problems for. So tomorrow we are talking about the energy crisis. Let's just call it an energy crisis, because now there's strawberry and all these other things are coming and they need more power. And where are we going to get that from? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about fission and fusion and everything else in between, and how we can satisfy or satiate our AI needs and wants. So that'll be tomorrow, Friday. We will have our 2-week recap show where we take a break and we talk about stuff we didn't get to this week on the news, but all the other stuff from the last 2 weeks. It's always a super fun show. It's one of my favorites because we always get into some deep conversations. And it sounds like we have lots of ideas for even more shows next week and beyond. So keep on coming back. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our shows. We're here 5 days a week. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the comments as always. And we will see you again tomorrow. Until then, guys, have a great day.
Aloha.